Hello, supply chain world. My name is Bill Dubois. I'm with Kinaxis, and I have the pleasure today to be speaking with Lora Cecere about elevating your supply chain planning experience in an SAP environment. And Laura, I think you're the perfect person to do that. So you know what's going on out there. I'm going to start with a cultural question for the economic people. But one of your blogs, you talked about the challenges in those environments. So to really get value, they had to address a cultural paradigm shift to really leverage that investment. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think there are three paradigm shifts that are really important. One is, what is the definition of supply chain excellence? Mm-hmm. I do a boot camp every year, and I ask people to draw the supply chain. And Bill, almost always people start with the supplier, not with the customer, and they don't know the customer. And secondly, they're not clear on what's value in the supply chain because we've focused on efficiency of silos, and efficient silos of make, source, and deliver do not give us really value in the supply chain. Yeah. So most people are struggling with what defines value. The second thing is most organizations are very reactive. They reward reactivity. So I had one client that had improved demand error by about 20%, but hadn't actually taken it to drive value because they rewarded reactivity. So planning is about the important, and most organizations reward the urgent. Right. And the third is this process evolution and improvement, to be able to look at new technologies, use new technologies, and evolve. Right. We're really good at product development. We're really bad at process evolution. We look at planning as an IT project, and we look at how quickly can we put it in versus how can I evolve it over time. Right. And I laugh and I say, if you'd never run a car without fine-tuning the engines, but most companies never fine-tune their planning engines.
Right. So for that economic buyer, that's a great place to start, is understanding where they're going to get value. And the value really starts with the customer. That's a great message. And we know in those SAP environments, it's an interesting time with the sunsetting of APO, transitioning to IBP. In that time of transition, what advice do you give that economic buyer? Where do they spend their money?
Well, it's really ironic. SAP had 42% market share, but yet half of companies are not happy with their supply chain planning environments. Right. And 68% of planning actually happens on Excel spreadsheets. And you and I both know that's not a good place to be. Yeah. So one of the really important pieces is usability of software, and that's actually something that Kinaxis does really well. The usability of the software, the ability to do what-if analysis. Right. And so I recommend people layer on a software like yourself to be able to get that usability across functions and do what-if analysis, because we've got a lot more uncertainty than we used to.
Yeah, so that the value that economic buyer's going to get is really, that cultural paradigm shift, and then, that focus on metrics, focus on the customer, and then enabling the planner to do their job. And I'm sure, many of your customers on SAP environments, so we really, it's a benefit for everybody that they fully leverage that investment. Any final thoughts for that economic buyer?
Well, I think that there's a lot of, false rumors in the market. And one of the issues that the economic buyer will have is the belief that purchase from SAP will give you better integration. And I actually find that many of my best implementations on integration happen when best-of-breed providers actually work with SAP. So many of the IT organizations will say, you're not going to get integration. And the economic buyer should really push back against that of what does integration mean and why do you say that? Right. And, the SIF interface does have value, but we can layer above that SIF interface and really be able to get what-if analysis and usability.
Yeah. That economic buyer really needs to know what's going on.
And they need to question, what is integration? What is end-to-end planning? What is value? And be a leader in driving supply chain excellence.
Yeah, it's interesting. You brought all those three areas together, that they're not really siloed. You need to think about that as a whole to really leverage that SAP investment.
And the other issue that the economic buyer has is many of the largest system integrators really push the large ERP vendors because they make more money. And they should push back on that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The large projects
Yeah.
are often the pathway to disaster. So 6 times a year I do independent research where I use my LinkedIn group to actually be my independent source. And that allows me to do research very differently than other
Right.
research firms because I know the companies of the individuals.
Yeah.
Right now we're doing a user satisfaction survey where we're looking at how satisfied are planners by age group, millennials versus baby boomers, versus types of solutions, global versus regional supply chains, to understand planner satisfaction. I got to tell you, Bill, I think we should be worried because planners are not very satisfied. And one of the
Yeah.
risks of the supply chain is turnover. And in my time of being an analyst, I have watched the salaries of planners increase by 40%, and they're turning over
Yeah.
because they're not in environments where they feel valued.
Right.
In fact,
Yeah.
one of the best read blog posts that I have is, have you given your demand planner some love today?
Yeah.
Because they don't feel loved,
Right.
and they feel like they're in an environment where they're not supported. And so when they come up with 60%
Yeah.
error, that may be the
Yeah.
forecastability
Yeah.
of that particular product, but
Yeah.
they feel like that, they can't have
Yeah.
a just data-driven discussion because of the lack of understanding.
Right.
So have systems that people can
Yeah.
use, that they like to
Yeah.
use, make their jobs easy, try to
Yeah.
create an environment where you can have a data-driven discussion
Yeah.
about the business
Yeah.
and make planning work.
Yeah, that's going to be a great resource. Thanks, Laura. That's great information. I highly recommend you check out Laura's blog it's an opportunity to ask Laura questions that I didn't get to today. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Bill.